How's it going, everybody? Today we'll be taking an in-depth look at Pantheon. I know that in the basics video I went over pretty much his kit, so we'll be taking a look at his build paths and some of the slight ways you want to play him at a higher level. Okay, so this will mainly be for Pantheon and the solo lanes. I haven't really played a lot of Pantheon support. I imagine that it would be similar to this one where you'd want to go Eclipse as your primary. You can also go the Gore Drinker, but I do know that on patch 11.1, which is the first patch of the new season, Gore Drinker has a slight change to it where it has a higher AD scaling ratio, but it heals less because it will take the percentage missing health after each individual champion is already healed on top already. So it'll be a percentage of a lower number for every champ you hit after the first one. So it's in a weird spot. I'm not exactly sure how much of a difference it'll make. I know that based on some of the numbers, you are going to be healing a lot less based on the more champions you hit, because it does do it sequentially, where like if you hit 2 champions, the percentage missing health on the second champion hit will be a lower amount. So that's why I think that everybody will start to favor the Eclipse build, and I do like that lethality kind of snowball early game that Pantheon typically plays for, because he is such an early game bully. So the build path I like to go is Eclipse. And I do have the Dark Harvest going because of the lethality build. The time I would go Conqueror into the Gore Drinker build is if I am playing into heavy armor tanks, like talking about 3 frontline tanks, possibly 4 frontline tanks, because your lethality burst is going to be pretty difficult to push through them. But like even with some of his itemizations, you can still take extended trades and fights and you will win out because of the lifesteal or the omnivamp from Eclipse, along with some of the other items that you can get along the way. So I like going Eclipse into the way I like to do it, because he's such an early game champion. I like to go Eclipse. If I am pressed for boots, I'll actually go tier 1 boots. And then I want to actually try and rush my second serrated Dirk as fast as possible. Sometimes I'll even finish this serrated Dirk before I get my boots, the first tier 1 boots, because of the lethality on it. I want to have more lethality while my opponent has less armor. Once I have this set up, I'll be able to start chunking out enemy champions and still taking fights pretty confidently. Because of the changes to his R, giving passive armor penetration now, that's why you can still play the lethality build into some of the armor tanks. You can go like Eclipse Collector into Black Beaver, but you want to rush the lethality as fast as you can so that you have more lethality the lower armor they have, because as they build armor, lethality value starts to fall off. So I like going Eclipse into the Collector, like I've said previously. Into third item can be a couple of different things. If you're looking at the enemy having tanks and they are playing those armor tanks, you can put a Black Cleaver as a third item. If they are still relatively squishy and you're really far ahead, you can take the Death Dance here. Both these items are really good because they give you some survivability. If you're like able to burst somebody down really quickly, the Death Dance will heal you back the damage essentially that they did to you. So that keeps you in the fight, and you can wait until like another combo is up and then hopefully pop somebody else. Because you can like start to build your stacks and then use your E to block damage, and then your lethality is still there. So when you jump on somebody else with like an empowered W and you get the hits and then you get the Q thrust stab off, you get another Dark Harvest stack, possibly a collective proc on the lethality, and potentially just kill somebody else. And then you'll heal back off the damage that they did to you. So then, these are typically the items I get. You'd finish your boots before you complete your third item typically because you don't need the lethality now. Like, you're not building lethality for a third item. But then you can also go other items if they're life stealing like crazy. You can go into the Death Dance into the Grievous Wound, your Grievous Wound item, which is typically Chem Punk. So then your fourth completed item would be kind of like your flex item, depending on how the enemy team is scaling. Again, I like the Cleaver if they're armor. If they're not and they're just a lot of AP damage, you can even go Spear Visage. With the Omnivamp from the Eclipse, it starts to add up because you're going to be doing so much physical damage that's close to true damage to them. And then you can still go Cleaver if you need it because it does work well with his Empower W. You can go other items such as a defensive armor item, Grievous Wound items. Your last two picks are typically pretty flex. And then the third one is if they're building armor tanks, you go Cleaver. If they're not, I like Death Dance. Okay. And that's for the lethality build. If you're not going lethality build, your build path would probably typically look along the lines of first item Gore Drinker. This is also, you'd go Conqueror with this build because you want really extended fights. Because when you Gore Drinker with more Conqueror stacks, you heal more because it raises your base AD. So you go like Gore Drinker, you complete your boots. Typically I go Mertra just because I don't want to get CC locked as him. If you're going into an all AD team, I like the Steel Guard or Steel Caps. So you go like Gore Drinker into Cleaver because of the extended fights. You just want to get the armor shred, and then you can go with different off items like Dead Man's Plate or whatever defensive item you need, whether it's armor, or you can go Dead Man's, or I like the Dead Man's because it has the HP on top of it compared to Death Dance. And then if you need the MR, you can go Spare Visage to pair with the Gore Drinker / Conqueror stacking heal. You can also go into Tiamat, or sorry, Hydra, because of the AoE healing that it'll also give you. So this is more the bruiser. You're not trying to pop one champion, you're just trying to take like extended fights build. And then like the TM or Hydra procs with a lot of your skills, so you can proc it quite a few times with your empowered. Let me get rid of the minions. You can proc with the empowered W. You can proc it with like, so you see the different cleave procs, and then also the spear. If you push it through multiple minions or multiple champions, you see it hits several times. And then the E is only on the ending of it. but it also pairs well with Cordbreaker, and you just get a lot of Omnivamp there. So you're trying to take like extended brawler trades. So those are typically the two build paths I go. If you're playing support, you might want to build things like Knight's Vow, third, possibly third item, where I would probably go to the lethality build as support Pantheon, and I would go into the Eclipse, into the serrated Dirk, and then possibly build like more tank stats there, and not necessarily finish the collector, but then go into your defensive stats to help your lane partner, where you try to just bully off of this giant spike that you have here. So those are the build paths, and then some of the minor things to combo with. I spoke previously in the basics video that you want to typically just CS with your last hits, or you want to CS in auto attack, and then when you get this 5 stacked passive up, you can W onto the enemy champion, and then you get the Q off, and then you E at the end to stop any return damage. And while you want to E at the end because your other 2 skills are on cooldown. While your other 2 skills are on cooldown, your E stops them from returning damage on you. And then you can actually almost get another Q off when your E falls off. So if they're trying to keep that engage on you, you get another Q on top of them. So here we are, I have the 5 stacks. And then I'll do that, and then again, I almost have another Q up. So if he wants to take the extended engage, he trades into a W, and then the auto attacks after the W while he's stunned, and then a Q, and then an E where he can't return damage on me, and then he takes another Q. When you have the lethality, you'll almost always burst somebody down with that, especially later in the game when you're getting these Dark Harvest stacks on top of somebody. And it's just how he should be playing. You want to play aggressively so that the lethality will snowball your lead. The lethality build will scale slightly harder or worse late game, where you have to know your map awareness, where you have to know like, okay, I can Grand Starfall into the back line, but you don't want to Grand Starfall because it's so telegraphed into like 4 champions and then get CC'd twice and then get bursted before you can even pop somebody. So typically when I try to Grand Starfall, I will even overshoot it if I have to, as long as I can get to the threat, which is the enemy backline. I don't want to land and get CC'd and then just, you know, get bursted down while I can't even do anything to it. You don't have to aim for the actual damage from the Starfall because of your lethality. If you're on a squishy, they should just be dead. But another thing again was the map awareness that he has for him. I typically won't ulti back into lane unless they're like under tower and I can get, say, like here. It's really difficult to ulti into mid lane with it because of how many outs they have. Because if I ulti here, it gets telegraphed. They path up this way. I can't gap close that because I can cut them off here, but they can go towards my blue. If my jungler is here, then yes, I can make that play. But then there's also a chance that they go this way, and then if I don't have vision here, I could be getting baited into their jungle. That's why when I Grand Starfall and ulti, I like to gank from base into a side lane, where if they're here and say they're like pushed up here or here, if they're not past that tri-bush yet, I can ulti behind them here and they can't really get away from me. I can make a flash W play here if needed, but they typically will have to run past me, and then this is almost like I can just land and then instant W on the ADC. Same thing with top lane, where there's not that many routes to escape. It's also the longer lanes. So after I made the side lane Grand Starfall play, I can either take the TP back to my lane, or even, again, like I said in the previous video, TP to the opposite side of the map to contest objectives, or make a gank on the objective. And then more than likely you can actually come back to lane, and if you burst them down, you're still healthy enough to full engage on the enemy laner that you're against in the mid lane. So yeah, I've been having a lot of success with the Pantheon build, and because he is such a big flex pick, I think that he's going to be really, really big at the beginning of the season. And he's just, his kit is very simplistic to play. It's just knowing the ins and outs of it to utilize all of his kit. Thank you for checking out my champion guide. I hope that the tips in this video help you guys in your climb. I know that these are not the most popular builds in playstyles, however they are stepping stones to the gameplay. Please let me know in the comments below the next champion you want to see. If you enjoyed the video, please leave a like and subscribe for future content. I hope these tips help, and as always, keep climbing.